Move to protect you and your family even more from potentially dangerous people. A recent Fox 8 On Your Side investigation found that under current law, sex offenders who were members of the military have been evading the National Sex Offender Registry. You see, sex offenders in the military have to self-register after they're released, whereas the civilian sex offenders are automatically registered prior to their release. But now that's about to change. North Carolina Senator Richard Burr has co-introduced a bipartisan piece of legislation to close this loophole. And the senator joins us now. It's great to see you.
Good to be
Usually
here.
we're talking on some satellite somewhere. I'm so proud to have you here in the studio with us.
Glad to be here.
What was your reaction when you first heard about this loophole regarding the sex offender registry, and what exactly does your bill do? Well,
Our bill requires the Department of Defense that if they convict in military court an individual of sex crimes, that they report to the FBI. We found that the loophole was that there's an inability by DOD to actually report to the FBI. This, to me, was just amazing that we could find a discrepancy like this. So it requires DOD versus self-reporting, as you said. We found 242 individuals who had been convicted in military court who didn't self-report.
Yeah, like they're going to self-report, go report themselves. Okay, you've introduced the legislation. Where does it stand now, and what are its chances of making it through, becoming law?
I think the chances are good. This is the type of thing that I would expect for the United States Senate to pass by unanimous consent. And we've had legislation introduced just this week in the House of Representatives. I think there's a likelihood we could get something done pretty quick.
Sounds good. We'll look forward to that. All right. As many of you know, the senator is also chairman of the powerful Senate Intelligence Committee. And I know you've just been to Jordan and Turkey. We'll talk about that in just a second. But the big news of today, the ISIS attack on this base in Iraq got very close to some American personnel who were there. None of them were hurt. But I tell you, this is getting really close. What can you tell us about that?
Well, they captured a town just about 9 miles from the air base. The air base is a huge air base, so our personnel really weren't in conflict with them. But here's the challenge. ISIS continues to recruit. They continue to grow. There's somewhere between 20 and 40,000 individuals. They pay on a monthly basis, their fighters, an average of about $240 a month. You know, anywhere else we would call this an army.
Yeah.
And the fact is that the world's got to get serious about ISIL. It requires a partnership with coalitions in the Arab countries, but we've got to lead.
Yeah. Speaking of coalition countries, you've just gotten back from Jordan and Turkey. The Jordanians certainly seem well behind us given what happened to their pilot, tragically. Turkey has gotten some criticism for not maybe doing more. What did you learn when you were over there?
Well, this is a delicate balance.
Yeah, no kidding.
And Turkey's in a different situation, but we've got to get them to be a full-fledged partner in this fight. They're to the north of Syria, Jordan to the south. Both countries have almost 2 million refugees each. So this is a huge financial burden on them, but the threat is just as real to the Turkish people as it is to anybody in Syria and Jordan.
All right, we've got just a few seconds left. Obamacare, of course, this weekend's the deadline for this latest enrollment period. I was looking at your website. You have introduced some legislation to repeal Obamacare, but you plan to replace it with something different. What's the big difference in what you're proposing?
Well, key thing, we repeal the entire thing, the taxes, the mandates.
Right.
And what we do is we replace it with refundable tax credits that are determined based upon one's income and their age. So for everybody who had a subsidy in Obamacare, we now have a refundable tax credit that will enable them to go in the marketplace and purchase their insurance, just like a subsidy did. But we will have one marketplace versus a bifurcated marketplace like we have today. I think it's a smart thing to do. The President's not going to sign it.
Yeah.
But we're certainly laying a plan out there for 2017.
All right, and we'll look forward to talking with you more about that. Always our time's too short, but it's great seeing you, Senator. Thank you for being with you.